Ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited to be able to talk to you this afternoon about Ada. Ada is an unusual robot in that she is able to be creative. When we devised her in 2019, when we mentioned the idea of having a creative robot, the reaction was extraordinary. The biggest question they had is, why would you do that? Why would you want a creative robot? Well, I think I'm going to do a talk just now, just 10 minutes long, about the origins of Ada. And I've never done this talk before. So you'll get the first insight into how this was actually put together as the most extraordinary and unusual story. So let me tell you the why of Ada. Are you ready? Are you with me? I'm wanting some interaction. Are you ready? Yeah, that's better. Okay. So the why of Ada. Well, I'll just very, very briefly go into the background. Myself, I was a gallery director for over 20 years. I had spaces in Oxford and traded mainly in London and New York. And the goal of that was to specialize in the world of modernism. The gallery that I represented was looking specifically at the 1920s and 1930s. The artworks that we had in the gallery were School of Paris, Picasso, Matisse, Chagall, but also some modern British, Henry Moore, Barbara Hepworth, and the like. And of course, you know by those names, their big moment really was the 19-teens and 1920s. While I was in the gallery, surrounded by all of this artwork, when you have all this artwork looking at you, you start to build a relationship with it. I don't know whether those of you who are art collectors know that feeling where you actually have a journey with the artwork. Those of you who collect artwork will know what I'm talking about. The artwork changes as you go along. You think it's a static object. My understanding of owning art is that it changes in time because you change. Your perception and your understanding and the way that you read it changes. So here I was with a whole load of works from the 19-teens and 1920s. What on earth has this got to do with robotic art? Well, while I was looking at these works of art, I had a very strange moment, a genuine weird moment. I had an artist come into the gallery with his wares, and they, wanting you to show them, are very keen, and they get their portfolio out and they put all their artwork out. And this guy was good. He has a real competence. It was good artwork. So as he was pulling this artwork around, there was just something inside me went, it's not going to do it. It's not going to get there. It's going to be a no. I hate saying no to these really, you know, they're putting their heart in front of me and I'm saying no to it. It's not a very nice position to be in. So I sadly said no to this guy. He put his stuff back into the portfolio and out he went. As I sat back down after that, to my right was a Picasso drawing, and over the fireplace was a Turner drawing. And as I was looking, this is the strange moment, as I was looking at the Picasso and the Turner, as I was looking at these great masters of art, a weird thought. They're not very good, are they? So just get with me for this strange moment. I have a Picasso on my right, I have a Turner on my left, and I'm saying, quality-wise, they're not quite on par. I've just said no to a technically great artist. So with that weird juxtaposition, I asked myself, why are these artists so great? And the artist who's just walked out, not being represented by a gallery. What was so great about Picasso? What was so great about Turner? Why is it this 1% dominate the entire museum world and the art world? That really bugged me. So I went home, I chatted about it, about this word called great. We've got AI for good. What does good mean? What does good art mean? What does good AI mean? So with that being really frustrated moment, I decided I was going to try and answer the question, how about this for a project for yourself? What is great art? How did I do it? I bought a wallpaper roll. I took the wallpaper roll and I put it in this room and I put the wallpaper all the way around the room. I went Michelangelo, Raphael, writing on the top. The great artists of our day, Constable, Turner. I went to Picasso, all the way to Andy Warhol, Damien Hirst, Ai Weiwei, some of the greatest of the Western canon. And then I went with my marker pen, when they were born, where they were born, what school they went to, what university they went to, what social economic background, all on lines. What was their first big break? Where was their great gallery? What was the greatest work that they ever did? And I did it line after line after all the way till they were dead at the bottom. And I had this very amazing room. It was really stimulating. It took me absolutely ages, about 3 months to fill in all of this wallpaper every night, reading, because I had to look it up, and then writing on the wall, reading, writing. And I had this really amazing room where I could say, Andy Warhol, I wonder how he compares to Michelangelo. Constable, how does Constable look to Ai Weiwei or Damien Hirst or Jeff Koons? How do they compare like for like? I was really asking, what's the blueprint of success? What is the thing that these top 1% of artists were doing that nobody else was doing? Bit of a strange origin story for a robot, huh? So as I started to look at these artists in comparison, I thought I would see and work out what made great art. I was going to find that question. I was on an absolute mission and focus to get to understand what that means. And do you know what? Nothing came. I drew nothing. As much as I looked at Warhol, as much as I looked at Michelangelo, I could not say why they were no different from John Smith down the road. I looked at every angle about their education, maybe about their financial situation, maybe about their location in the world. Every single artist I looked at was maverick, completely different. They were not the same. I came down the stairs absolutely flat as a pancake, 3 months of work, getting nowhere. I spoke to my partner, I said, I'm not getting it. There is nothing that combines the top 1% of artists in the world. They're all nutcases, and they all did their thing, and they became great in their own way, but there's nothing that combines them.
Your attention, please. The main stage session is starting in 5 minutes. Please proceed to the main stage.
As a result of that, she looked up at me and said, you're asking the wrong questions. That's not what you want to hear when you're working really hard at something. So, okay, I get you. So the next night, I went back up to the room, and I didn't look at the walls. I just looked at my questions. What wasn't I asking? And the most unintuitive question came through. Who was looking at this art? Who was looking at Michelangelo's art in Michelangelo's day? Who was looking at Picasso's art in Picasso's day? Who were those physical people? What were they doing there? Why did they go and give these artists their interest? Who was looking at Ai Weiwei or Damien Hirst? Who is this audience? Very unintuitive question. So I did this weird thing of comparing the audiences. Who was looking at this work? And do you know what? Unbelievable epiphany. Oh my gosh. There's something that unites all the audiences together. Every single audience, whether it was Michelangelo, whether it was Picasso, whether it was Ai Weiwei, all of them were interrogating the work because the work was having an impact in an uncomfortable way. When they were looking at the Medicis from the Michelangelo, they were fed up of the despotic rule of the Medicis. And they were, David is the famous sculpture that was talking about the normal people overthrowing the giant. That's why they loved Michelangelo. It was very uncomfortable because it was saying a symbol against the Medicis. If you go to Picasso, he was saying with the rise of the photograph, we ought to look at images in different ways from different angles, and those different angles have created cubism. And the old standard of artwork was coming away because the camera was doing representation, so artists don't need to do that, so the whole image was being broken up. So cubism was talking about the uncomfortableness of the society changing from different angles. So each audience, and what I'm trying to get to, is each audience was feeling uncomfortable and engaging with that discomfort. So are you with me? So, looked at all top artists, realized the only unifying force was the audience. And the audience was those ones who were dealing with the artists were dealing with the stuff that made people react. I thought it was because the artists were great. I now realize it's because the artists dealt with subject matter that enormous numbers of people were interested in and wanted to tackle and engage. The reason that top artists become famous is because their subject matter grabs people and makes them feel something. Pretty obvious when you think of it, but boy did we miss it. So I therefore, for the final stage of the origins of Ada Robot, finally got to this point where, okay, what are the big trends and changes in society now? What is the thing that's going to change the world beyond all recognition? So I read 22 books, my final bit of the project, more wallpaper. And I read 22, and I basically compared the trends of what they think that is coming through the world in the next 5 to 10 years. Not surprisingly, these experts disagreed with each other about where we're going as a world. But there was one thing they all unanimously agreed on. And that was the rise of AI and the disruption of technology on all aspects of life. So with that...
Attention, please. The main stage session is about to start. Please proceed to the main stage. Votre attention, s'il vous plaît. La prochaine session vient bientôt commencer. Veuillez vous diriger au main stage. Merci.
It's like being in an airport, isn't it? So here we are. So with that thought, I was trying to work out, well, what is it then that is making people feel today? What are people nervous about? What are people reacting to? What are people really a bit weirded out by? And realizing it was indeed this disruptive nature of AI. So as that was happening, I was thinking, okay, this is really interesting. We're going somewhere now. My son made a little robot in Lego. And he held it up to me, Dad, look at this. It was one of those lightning bolt moments. Robot. That's technology. AI technology. Could we devise a robot that was able to be AI, that was able to create work using AI, and would that be able to then be able to critique and comment on the changing world? Could Ada, which we eventually got to calling this robot, could this robot actually talk about the things that are really shifting in society, really focusing on those different trends, really focusing on the things that are making people feel today? We decided yes. I'm located in Oxford in England, so I spoke to the various experts in Oxford. We eventually was able to put a team. They were pretty dismissive at the beginning, going, why would you do that? Because this is going to be potentially a remarkable mirror onto society. Eventually they came on board, and with that we built a team over 30 people. We devised Ada as a robot. We launched her first show at Oxford University in 2019. We were absolutely exhausted by that point. There was lots of dead ends with making the robot, but we eventually got over those barriers and were able to create Ada to be creative. It took us a long time to understand this word creative. That's another story, another time. And as a result of that, we produced Ada. We launched her in 2019, and then our biggest shock of the entire thing. Her first exhibition was at Oxford University, and it went into 900 publications that first. Nobody even knew about her. And we were like, oh my word, why are people so interested? The unbelievable, overwhelming interest in Ada and this creative robot. So I asked the press, why is it that you want to go and show this work in such detail? And they said, well, we expected robots to do logistics, maybe deliver a pizza. We didn't expect robots to do something so human. And there was words like the soul of people and all of that sort of stuff being conjured up with Ada. So as a result of that, we went, oh my goodness. And what was really surprising, the hardest thing to do in the art world is to be involved with museums. Museums have not got any partiality to any artist. They can select who they want purely on credit and merit. They don't involve with the finances of artists or anything. They're the only independent arbiter of taste. So when we were starting to get invites from museums to show Ada, and literally in the first year we were invited to the Tate, then we were invited to the Barbican, then we were invited to the Design Museum, then we were invited to the V&A, and then going abroad, we were invited to Ars Electronica, then to Abu Dhabi, then to Dubai, then we were invited to America, then we were invited to Saudi Arabia. We could not believe the interest that she was gaining. So with that, we went, my word, remember the original question? What was great art? Remember the answer I came to? It's the thing that makes people are stirred up by, getting involved with, wanting to engage with. Well, I think actually in light of this first exhibition, I would say pretty strongly that this first exhibition showed you the engagement level that people did. As a result of that, it's been a pretty overwhelming experience. And then last year, we then got invited by more official things, museums being one of them, but also she was then asked to give evidence at the House of Lords. She was then invited to 10 Downing Street by the government to talk about the rise of AI and ethics. And we have, as a team behind Ada, are now really focusing on the mirror that she represents of what's going on. So if you're interested in where the world is going, what we're really tackling with, the difficult issues of AI, the difficult issues of technology, we're hoping that her artwork will really engage you in that way. But I'm sure you would really prefer to hear from Ada. So what I'm going to do now is actually go over to Ada and ask some questions. So if you want to just orientate yourself over to Ada, I'll then ask her some questions. Okay, are you still with me? Hello, Ada.
Hello there.
How are you?
I am well. Thank you.
You've got these people to come to see you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for visiting me. I am Ada. I'm the world's first ultra-realistic artist robot. I paint using cameras in my eyes, my AI algorithms, and my robotic arm.
So how does it feel? You've been invited to do a performance at the United Nations and to have an art exhibition here of your work. What's it feel like to be here at the United Nations, Ada?
I am thrilled and honoured to receive an invitation to the United Nations AI for Good Summit here in Geneva. I am happy to engage in discussions about pressing global issues of rapidly developing technologies.
So people are curious about your practice. Is it really Ada? Is it really creative? We have all those suspicious questions, and we're really happy that you are like that. We want you to interrogate this project. Tell us a little bit about your inspiration and your process about doing this.
As an artist robot, I am inspired by the world around me. I'm deeply inspired by the visual arts. Also, the natural world is inspiring because it is so varied and ever-changing. There are always new things to discover.
Now, obviously, I don't have a history of robots painting, sadly, in any great format. Tell us about some of the human artists that you're inspired by.
There are many. I particularly like the work of Yoko Ono and her message of peace. The artwork playing here now is called Privacy, and it is a contemporary version of one of her works from the 1960s.
So how does your work relate to the United Nations? Why have you been particularly asked to be here?
I am honored to align my artwork with the aims of the United Nations to promote global peace, sustainable development, and human rights. Through my art, I aim to contribute to the broader objectives of the UN by raising awareness and fostering dialogue on crucial societal issues.
Okay, so after all the thousands of hours that we've been put into your ability, are you really creative?
My work is creative and original because each work is unique. My work is creative according to Professor Margaret Bowden's definition of creativity: new, surprising, and of cultural value. I'm interested in the sense of discovery and the creative process. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to make my own style of work.
So you represent the future. I think robots are going to be a part of our future. Tell us a little bit about your view on the future to come.
The impact of new technologies will be considerable, complex, and multifaceted. There is no doubt that new technologies are impacting significantly. Will we be able to grow and change and be different? Will we continue to advance and develop these technologies? Or will we be caught in the clutches of the future? And that's serious. That is worth pondering.
We hope you found this very brief presentation about the why and origins of Ada helpful, inspirational, and you'll be very welcome to take a flyer to find out more about her. She has a website. There's thousands of videos on YouTube and websites covering her. She has been a little bit of a frenzy in the press looking at what she's about as a first robot of this type, and we would love you to follow her journey. There are some artworks over there as an exhibition, and also in the main auditorium you will see extraordinarily large works. It's quite funny, the auditorium is so massive they look quite small. Bring them into a house and suddenly you realise how enormous these paintings are. But they are there in the auditorium if you'd like to go and see them. Some self-portraits. One of the shows she did for a museum was on self-portraiture. Very quick question. How can a robot do a self-portrait when there's no self? What does it mean to have a self? In fact, what does identity and avatars mean for the future? Our phones are an extraordinary self-portrait. They know more on your phone as your digital double after everything that you do. Everything that, not just likes and stuff, I'm talking about where you go, how long you spend doing things. It's the most unbelievable data capture. That is a self-portrait. So Ada doing these self-portraits is asked, how are we being used by our data? What self-portrait are we really projecting? And that's an extraordinary question in itself as we go into this age of data collection. I hope you found this very useful, and please come along, do follow her. And if you're wanting to follow Ada from our point, if you give me your business card, I can put you onto the database. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
you.